Alright, so attempt number two of this video. Um, so basically, I was on Instagram, just chilling, doing whatever, just bored. Um, Decided to go to Steinhart watch page, their official watch page, just to see what was up, pictures of watches, whatever, just to see what's up. And I come across this new post, right? So very inconspicuous looking post, nothing too crazy about it. It's just a picture of the owner, Günther Steinhart, shaking hands with some people, just some random people. They're all smiling. They're all showing off the watches they're wearing. It's all good. It's just a happy picture, right? So I end up seeing in the comments, some commenters were pretty upset. The correct would be outraged and maybe even disgusted. Apparently, Steinhardt had been guilty of something terrible, horrific, really. Apparently, people believe that Steinhardt were supporting the war in the Ukraine. So, what this was regarding is basically this store in the picture was a Russian store, retail brick and mortar store that were now allowed to sell Steinhardt watches. They partnered with Steinhardt, right, as a AED official seller, whatever. And people were outraged. They were like, "Damn, this is awful! I can't believe the Steinhardt. Like, farewell, Steinhardt. I'm never gonna buy your watches again. This has lost all respect for you, and this and that." I'm just like, I'm just I'm just reading some of these comments, and then I'm reading further, and I'm seeing people say stuff like, "Oh, yeah, all Russians have lost their human rights because of the war in the Ukraine, and Russians are awful." And I'm just like, "Are you fucking stupid? Like, are you dumb? Like, what? Are you actually fucking stupid? Like, it fucking baffles me. It baffles me how dumb people are these days. Like, what? How dumb could you be? You believe Steinhardt has a bearing on the war in the Ukraine. You believe the average Russian does. And the average Russian is involved in the war. You really believe that? Wow, you're so stupid. It's actually crazy. Like, goodness, dude. Like, how did you become so dumb? Like, just, dude, elaborate. Like, I'm curious. Like, what happened? Like, damn. Cause shit, man. It drives me insane how stupid people are these days, man. Dude, America, right? America. Let's just talk about America for a second, okay? They nuked Japan twice, okay? They nuked Japan twice, right? Guantanamo Bay exists, right? Allegedly, some people who were captured and put into their terrorist interrogation programs were not necessarily guilty of anything clear. Apparently, allegedly, right? Allegedly, innocent people were captured, right? That's been alleged in the media, various sources, right? America was involved in slavery, a grand scale. People of color were treated like literal trash for many hundreds of years. America used to hang people who they believed were guilty of witchcraft without adequate evidence. In fact, arguably speaking, a lot of those who were hanged were actually completely innocent. Blatantly so. You could read some accounts, and I mean, they the people that got hanged the most were the ones who were like the least likely to have been guilty of witchcraft, right? If you believe in that kind of thing, right? So basically what you find is that America has been guilty of atrocities, for many hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, not thousands of years, hundreds of years, right? Since America's inception, and since their establishment of a country, right? They've been for hundreds of years now. They've been guilty of atrocities, which is just accepted. It's like chilled. It's fine. Didn't care anymore. Like, why? Right? No one cares, right? We all love America, right? America's the darling of the world, society, really. I mean, we all look up to Americans. We want to speak like Americans. We model ourselves after Americans. We steal aspects of their culture. We adapt. We steal those aspects of their culture. We adapt into our own cultures. We adopt their words, their language. We all speak English, right? Because of America and the UK existing, we all speak English, right? We don't blame them for anything, right? We don't go at them for anything they've done, right? Why? Because we don't punish the average person for actions committed by defense departments, government agencies, people with supreme amounts of power that you could never even touch. People that make these decisions to do whatever. The people you'll never the average person will never have any sort of relevance to a person that powerful. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, America and a few other countries have the death penalty. They've executed innocent people like many times, right? Um, it's happened, and we don't shun them for it. We just let it happen. We don't care. We don't get bothered by it. Why? Because again, like what is the average person on the street gonna do? Why would you want to persecute the average American? What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do about their governor's decisions or the what could they possibly do to change their society? The average person has very little power. You guys realize that. The average human being, commoner, normal, run-of-the-mill person has very little power. When you talk about government agencies and global elites and shit, the average person has very little say. So, and let's look at Japan. Japan was a Nazi ally, right? They were involved in one of the arguably the most disgusting, case of human atrocities I've ever. I don't think you could top Unit 731. I think Unit 731 is quite possibly the worst thing I've ever come across in my entire existence. I've seen some shit, by the way. I like watching Plagued Moth. I'm not a very sensitive person. I'm quite cold. I don't get very bothered by things. I've watched the Human Centipede movie while eating a bowl of oatmeal. I'm not very, very, very bothered by things. Unit 731 made me feel sick. I could not believe the things I was reading or researching, in YouTube videos and just reading about. Every single time I look at Unit 731, it's just like, it just gets worse and worse. It's like, it doesn't get better, it just gets worse. Every time you read what they did, it's like, it just fucking puzzles the mind how badly those people were experimented on, and it's just like, what the actual fuck, right? We don't go at Japan, right? You guys know that, George H.W. Bush was America's president in the 1980s, right? The father of George W. Bush. The son of Prescott Bush. Now, George H.W. Bush was a fighter pilot for the U.S. Army, whatever, in the Second World War, right? You guys know that George H.W. Bush's plane went down, along with some of his comrades, his allies, his squad mates, his team members, basically, in his platoon. And I don't know if they got shot down by an anti-aircraft gun or what happened, but a bunch of them went down. And he managed to crash his plane safely into the water, and get out, not die, obviously, on impact. And he managed to find a paddle boat, I believe. And somehow, by the grace of God, he managed to paddle to safety, where he basically got far enough away from the Japanese incumbent patrol boats, who were about to capture him and probably do unspeakable things to him. He got away. He got to his allies. Somehow he found. I don't know what they were on. I don't know if it was a boat or if it was a. I don't know what they exactly rescued him on, but they rescued him with some military vessel that they were manning in that area, and they found him somehow. I don't know how they found him, but they found him, and he was saved, and he was rescued. It was a miracle. A miracle. His squad members, his team members, so they got captured by the people on the island, the Japanese soldiers on the island, and they got tortured. They got practiced on, like, soldiers would go there and practice their sparring on them while they were tied up. They would stab them repeatedly and kick them, and then eventually they just ate them all. They ate them all. That's what you could. That's all that you can really end on. They ate them all. They were all killed by by the soldiers and then eaten, cannibalized. Apparently the Japanese soldiers liked the taste of their meat. They thought they tasted good, so they just, and it gave them special powers apparently. So we don't go at Japan, right? A bunch of you guys watching this video are probably fucking weebs, right? Let's be honest, probably weebs, right? You probably love anime, which is fine. I like anime. I don't love anime. I like anime. It's alright. It's alright. I've got friends that love anime. Arguably, I've got friends that are actually, arguably speaking, weebs. But we don't persecute Japan. We don't stop watching anime to boycott Japan, right? For eating people in the war. We don't do that. Why? Why don't we boycott anime? Because the Japanese army have eaten people. Like, why don't we hate Japan? Well, because it's impractical to hate Japan. Why would we hate Japan? Why would we hate the average person for the sins of their past, or the sins of some people that they could never have influenced or convinced otherwise, right? And don't for a second think that a politician or a government party can't change their tune after being elected, right? They are snakes. They will tell you they're a Gandhi, and the next day will behave like the devil, right? That's a politician. They will tell you all these wonderful things, and then once they're elected, go fucking wage war in a country and kill people. That's literally what governments do on a regular basis, and it baffles me that you guys who are commenting on Steinhart's Instagram posts just don't realize this. Like, are you actually stupid? Like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I don't get it, man. Like, what's Steinhart gonna do? And let's just say Steinhart, other companies too. Let's say like Pepsi, Coke, and whoever else, Samsung, whoever else. What are they gonna do? Apple, what are they gonna do? Stop selling phones and food and stuff in China and in Russia. We're gonna make sure we sanction them hard, make sure they can't have any items, so that the average person just has to not have anything anymore. They all have to starve and not have cell phones, and that's all. That's what we're gonna do. It's like, you think that's gonna influence the Russian government, right? You really think that? You know that Russia's one very, wealthy businessman named Roman Abramovich owned Chelsea Football Club for many years. Arguably speaking, he transformed the football club. He was actually loved by Chelsea Football Club. I loved it. He was a great owner. He was a great club owner. I loved the fact he was our owner. It was awesome having his owner. The club under his rule was great. He always made good decisions, with regards to managers and whatever, and signing players. His whole team behind him, Marina Granitskova, like his whole team behind him, and him himself, his decision making, he ran that club brilliantly. And if anyone was gonna have a direct line of comms with Vladimir Putin, it would be him, right? If anyone was gonna have a way of speaking to Putin, trying to reason with him, bargain with him, if anyone was gonna have the power to do that, right? Any person who wasn't, involved in the government or in the military could potentially get through to Putin. It would be him, right? He has billions, more money than anyone watching this video will ever have. He's actually a multi-billionaire, right? And he got lowballed for Chelsea Football Club because the UK government said, hey, you can't operate here. So, if he didn't sell the club, I think the club's shares would have dropped to zero, because they would have lost all their sponsorships. They couldn't have partaken in the Premier League. They would have been shunned from any sort of tournament. They wouldn't have been dealt with in terms of transfers. They couldn't negotiate transfer. They couldn't negotiate contracts. They literally lost Tony Rudiger. They lost Christensen. They lost a bunch of players because they literally couldn't renew contracts with Abramovich, the owner. They couldn't renew contracts. They literally could not discuss contracts with their players. They couldn't sign players. They couldn't buy players. They couldn't sell players. They were stuck because of Abramovich. Until Todd Bowley took over, they were basically screwed, right? And once Todd Bowley took over, I don't know. The club has been kind of going downhill, to be honest with you. And, yeah, that's how it's been. So, the thing is, right? Putin didn't care that Abramovich lost his club. In fact, he probably messaged him personally and said, "Hey, man, sorry about that. Sorry you had to sell your club." Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Who knows? Maybe he wrote him a nice letter. But Putin was not phased. Abramovich had sold the club. That was it. Done deal. I bet the UK government were like, "Oh, home run. We're gonna end the war in the Ukraine by threatening Abramovich. We're gonna get Russia to stop the war because they're gonna be like, oh yeah, we can't have this guy selling the football club and it's so famous and prestigious." No, they didn't care. Chelsea was gone. In fact, it got sold for a bargain. He got lowballed by, Todd Bowley's firm. They effectively lowballed him. I mean, what were they gonna do? Why not lowball him? Everyone was lowballing him. He couldn't sell the club for like he couldn't find a buyer for Chelsea for like 5 months. And that's because everyone's offers were like appalling because they were like, this guy has to sell, so we're just gonna fucking lowball him. Like $1 billion, dude. Chelsea Football Club. Lowball him. Fuck. So literally like, and you guys think that Steinhart could prevent the war or them dealing in Russia somehow supports the war. I just struggle to understand, what you think would happen if Steinhart didn't deal there. Do you realize that Putin's watch collection, his private watch collection, would make your head spin? And you think that it's okay to shun Steinhart. It's like, oh, it makes sense. Like, you realize that there are luxury watch brands who Putin has pieces from. He probably had them sent to him from the vendor directly. Do you realize Rolex gives presents the Rolex day date as like a gift type thing? Like Rolex gifts presents timepieces. I can't say for certain, but I would probably venture to guess that possibly Rolex gifted Putin a Rolex. Right? I would guess that Putin's Pateks, his APs, his Richard Milles, his Hublots, his whatever he has, right? Grand Seiko even. I would venture to guess that a few of those high-end pieces were given to him as gifts by these manufacturers over the years. Which is neither here nor there, right? So you guys gonna shun Rolex and AP Patek? If you see Putin in a picture wearing a Patek, are you gonna boycott Patek? Are we not gonna buy Pateks anymore? Really? No, you don't care because you're stupid. And the only reason why you're on Steinhart's page making commotion is because you're dumb. That's the truth of it, okay? You're dumb. You're dumb, okay? So please guys, let's all just start using our heads and stop being stupid. Yeah, that's about it, guys. That's about it. I think that's about what to say. Yeah, cheers.